And so we're talking about feelings today. Anybody want to get a little uncomfortable today? Uncomfortableness is good. Getting out of our comfort zone allows us to stretch and to become. By the way, we're on a journey to our true self. Did you get that song? On a journey to our true self, but a good way to find that is take a journey to Spain with us. This community is going to Spain in September. I do my best with the segues. But if you are interested in joining a community that is not only traveling to Spain, but traveling to journeys inside their heart, deep, deep places as a community, Joanne Perry is somewhere in this room. There she is. Please see Joanne after the service. She'd love to get you signed up. There's only a few spots left, so they're going fast. Have you noticed that life is speaking as you pay attention to life? Have you been watching what's going on at the national level, state level, within your families, within the work environments? People are feeling stuff, and it's up within the field. And so easily we dismiss it. It's like that's somebody else's problem, somebody else's challenge. My life is okay, I'm fine. And then we put on the new thought face and say, it's not hot, I'm not in hell, I'm not experiencing that. This past weekend when I got the opportunity to walk my family through a deep, deep loss, you know, nothing was perfect. There was nothing perfect, but there was perfection in the midst of the imperfection. There was a hello, a peace in the midst of loss and pain, in the midst of a goodbye. But God is speaking. Life is speaking to us everywhere. And you know what it's saying? It's saying, see me. See me. Really see me. Not with metaphysical eyes and a pair of glasses, but just see what's up. Feel me. Feel me at depth. And touch something that is beyond the mundane moment-to-moment living of life that we go through. See me, feel me, touch me. Recognize the lyrics? Now you will in a second. Heal me. You know, the only way we're going to heal the condition of the human race as it is today, we've been talking for a long time about what needs to be healing. Talk is cheap. We've got to get to the divine feminine of our very soul and our very essence to feel what needs to be felt and not run away from it, not try to hide it, not try to mask it. You know, those words, see me, feel me, touch me, heal me, were spoken to the master teacher, Jesus. Everywhere he went, they wanted to touch the hem of that garment. See me. Somebody accept me and recognize me. Somebody see my value. Feel the pain that I am living in. Don't run from me, but just feel this as another human being walking this earthly journey. There's stuff going on. And you have a consciousness. They want to touch the hem of the garment of that consciousness that says, feel this pain. And boy, did they reach out with their hands, touch me. It didn't matter the condition. Everybody wanted to be touched by a higher awareness, a higher consciousness, a higher vibration and way of being. Because they knew that in getting that mindset in themselves, by that very touch, something would be healed. Well, you know, the Christ, Jesus, as the Christ, has left the planet a long time ago. And I like to sing a song, the prayer of St. Teresa, that says that Christ has no body now but yours. No hands, no feet on earth, but yours. You see, Christ was not one person. Christ is a divine essence and consciousness and truth and love that exists at the center of our humanity. And so each one of you is a Christ to the extent that you are willing to be awake to your light and awake to your magnificence and to feel it and to not run away when life gets difficult. Jesus went right smack dab into the middle of where the trouble was and said, let me be the conduit for change. Let me be the portal for something greater to operate here. We have that same call. When you notice it, it's up in the field. It is yours to take responsibility. It's not somebody else's. You are the veritable presence of the Christ. And life is screaming. God is screaming, see me, feel me, even in the midst of the darkness. You see it here, you see it there, you hold it everywhere. And when we do that, we hear music that is more profound and beautiful than we've ever felt before. We climb mountains that suddenly we're able to mount these mountains when they seemed insurmountable 30 seconds ago, because you found a greater power and a greater presence within you, that with your human mind that was unachievable suddenly became easy and simple, because you were coming from the spiritual part of yourself, the truest divine essence of your very soul, and not your human belief in limitation. You begun to feel a heat, a fire, a passion, and something stirs in you that is more real and more profound and more powerful than anything you've ever felt. Right now, in our call from life, our call from God as life, we need to access that fire like never before. We need to access that passion like never before, to look at the mountains and say, you no longer have power over me. That obstacle that I have given power to for 30, 40, 50 years no longer has power over me. And when you do that, there is a glory not only in the individual lives, but the collective lives of the humanity. You see, your good, your consciousness, your awareness is not localized at the point of view. You are intrinsically linked to all of humanity. And so by you raising your own vibration, you are changing the face of the entire planet. That's how important you are. Don't go to sleep. I asked Sonia Gardner, our singer today, to come up and to specifically sing this song from The Who's Tommy. Those are the hippies that will recognize that. So I'm going to ask Sonia to come up. And as she comes up and Julie comes up and sings this song, I need to get a microphone as well because they're going to let me dance a little bit on a harmony. I'm going to invite you to open up a field. To open up the field of your heart, your divine feminine, to be so receptive and vulnerable and humble to whatever is up in the field that we as a collective can begin to heal what we notice at the macrocosmic level. Let us be the microcosmic power of healing. If you know the words, please sing. See me, feel me, touch me, heal me, see me, feel me, touch me. Please sing with us. See me, feel me, touch me, heal me. Listen to you, get the music, gazing at you. I get the heat, following you. I climb a mountain, I get excitement at your feet. Right behind you, I see the glory on you. I see the glory on you. I get opinions from you, I get the story. Come on, sing with us. Listen to you, I get the music, gazing at you. I get the heat, following you. I climb the mountain, I get excitement of you, I get the story. See me, feel me. Sonia Gardner. You know, there's a part of us right now, everyone in this room, who came here seeking something, saying, see me, feel me, touch me. You know what come with, you feel me, man, I feel you too, dude. The reality is, what we do here, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of music, there's a lot of stuff. At the end of the day, it's because you're accepted here. Because somebody reaches into your heart, no matter what your experience is, and says, I feel you, I am with you, you're not alone. That's the greatest value that we have here. Today we are starting a series, a 4 or 5 part series, depending on how I feel in 4 weeks, on the collective consciousness, on the collective pathos, the collective emotional dramas that they're contextualizing our life as we know it today. You know, this is what Aristotle, who's going to be walking with us through these 4 or 5 weeks, this is what he had to say. Really read it with me. If you would understand anything, observe its beginning and its development. You know, sometimes we think that our lives are only informed by what has happened since we entered the plane of existence on earth and the day we live, the dash. They might tell you there's a whole collection of people since the beginning of time that are a part of the life that you are experiencing today. At the collective level, we look at the state of our country today. There's a whole bunch of things that led up to that we must look at, and how we develop to that point in order to get there. That means we can no longer just easily dismiss it's wrong, it's bad, it's terrible, it's evil. That same energy exists within each and every one of us because we're intrinsically connected to the whole. It is a part of us. And we need to see it, we need to feel it, and we need to touch it from where we started. Because if we're just dealing with the now moment and what we're experiencing in the now moment, you're living in the world of effects. Today and this moment is an effect of a greater cause within us, and a greater cause that has been part of your life since the beginning of your entrance onto the earth plane. So what is collective consciousness? It is accumulation. This is my definition, not necessarily Unity's, but I think it works. The accumulation of all the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs, the values, the attitudes, the relationships, the judgments, the words, the actions that make up your life as you know it. It's all in there. Some of it is great and wonderful and magnificent, and some of it maybe needs a little bit of tweaking. And it's at a place that you're aware of. We can talk out here, and we're aware of these tapes that are playing, the ideas and the notions and the opinions. We're aware of it. 90% of it or more is beneath the surface where we're not paying attention to it, like a great iceberg. And the world is going around dealing with what's above the ocean, what we can see, feel, touch, and experience with the 5 senses. But the greater cause is what's underneath the surface. And so when you notice what's wrong out here, you better take a look at the subconscious stuff that you've been holding, because you may be perpetuating a toxic system that you don't like. And by being in resistance to it, by being in judgment about it, by being in a place of fight, you're perpetuating the system that you want to get rid of. You're perpetuating the system that you don't want to live in anymore. Unity teaches us that life is consciousness. Your life as you know it today is all consciousness. All the rest is just made up stuff. It's a movie screen that's changing every single moment. And what changes the real about what you're experiencing is the consciousness that's underneath. The real can be changed. But we're cursing the movie, wondering why don't we change the movie? Why don't they change the movie? And we are called to change the movie that we are playing. The totality of who we are, both on an aware and unaware level, is driving not only your individual life, but you're intrinsically linked to the whole. So today I want to talk specifically about the collective pathos, the collective emotional body. There are emotions. The divine feminine is operating and moving and stirring and receptive. It's a very receptive environment. Look around at life. Emotions are running rampant. What do you see as the dominant energy and dominant emotion running life as you know it? Not just you, but the whole world today. Call it out. You know, isn't it funny when the same thing happened first service. I was not too sure you would do it, but you fell right into it. What's the dominant energy running the world today? And immediately was fear, anger, hate. All those words came up naturally. I didn't hear first service or second. Love, peace, oneness, and harmony. Now, I'm not going to call it bad. I'm going to call it evidence. It's evidence that there's something going on within us individually and collectively that just needs to be addressed. To go underneath the surface of the ocean and quit looking at what's above the line, but look at what's below the line and go, how can I address things there? Because it is at the root. I don't know about you. When I grew up on a farm, and my mother, my father, my grandmother, and my grandfather all perpetuated that if you want to get rid of a weed, you can't do it at the surface. You got to get down, dig down, and get the roots. And that's hard work, isn't it? It's way harder. It's way easier to just scrape the top off. And guess what? 2 weeks down the road, you're pulling up the same weed. You're scraping to pull the... We're dealing with the world of effects, and it's time that we quit looking at the effects, good, bad, or otherwise, and start being the cause of a new reality. You know, we are intrinsically linked to every other reality. If we say in Unity sometimes, if you spot it, you got it. If it's bugging you, and it's stirring in you and making you uncomfortable, you probably have it. Let's put the slide up with the circles. Many philosophers have said that God is a circle whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere. It's limitless. We can't even begin to understand this divine idea of God and life. But boy, can we understand the center. And wherever you happen to be, God is present. There is not a place where you, because the center of God is wherever you happen to move. It's no less here or more here than it is here or over there. And sometimes we think, oh, if I go to the right place or I hang with the right people, there's more God available. That's the biggest lie ever sold. There's no more God available to you in the life that you're in today than there has ever been. That's how powerful you are. And getting in touch with that power, let's say we are the center of our universe. And we need to look at what's going on at the center instead of looking at the next circle up. How many people were born into a family consciousness, a family pathos? What was the dominant emotion driving your family that you were born into? Fear. Love. Okay, we did hear love. Good for you. Bless for you. See, sometimes it's good. Sometimes the collective family consciousness is a good thing. But until we examine what we want, and what we receive, and what we don't want, and what we get rid of, that needs to be a regular process of taking stock of what I have maybe allowed to seep in from the bottom of the ocean, inherited the sins of the father, if you will, as the Bible might put it. It's gotten into the soil. I never had the thought. But the energy is in the room. What's another layer? Let's say we got family consciousness. How many were born into a certain cultural consciousness? A certain ethnic consciousness? You know, the reality is we cannot ignore our histories. And we're having a lot of dialogues in this church about race. I cannot possibly heal my own life today and the earth as I know it today unless I am willing to heal what my great-grandfather did. Because that energy has seeped in through the bottom. I have had a set of circumstances, a set of opportunities, a set of values that I either let just dominate my life unconsciously, or I bring it up and say, I don't choose this anymore. I don't want this anymore. I need to see it. I need to feel it. And I need to be uncomfortable with touching it so that I may release it or embrace it as my own. But many of us are walking through the planet with a collective consciousness of our family or our culture that needs to be released. It doesn't mean that you diminish your family or your culture. It means you are living consciously, awake and aware that this is the person I choose to be. The sins or the blessings of the Father can be there. I recognize them, and I make my choice as an empowered being of God and of light. How about the next circle up? Let's say community. You know, Unity North has a collective consciousness. And I was examining my job this week. And I think there's a lot of my job that nobody even sees. You think, oh, he gets to come up and he gets to stand and he gets to maybe sing a song once in a while, do other things during the week. Number one thing I do during the week is manage the collective consciousness of this community. I want you to hear that. We have a history in this church Good, bad, and otherwise. It goes back long before this building was even here. And there are certain patterns. There are certain vibrations that inevitably will rear their head. And the most important job of your minister, your staff, and your board is to manage that collective energy. When the weed starts to pop up, let's get to the root. That doesn't make for comfortable conversations. But boy, does it make for a healthy congregation that's doing the deep inner work. And it doesn't happen just out here. Part of my job as a minister is to handle it here. Because we haven't found each other by accident. Your issues are my issues. Your subconscious pattern is my subconscious pattern. And so rather than talking about congregants that need to change, that need to shift, that need to move, or family members that need to do something different, I need to go, what within me needs to be healed so that I can see them differently and create a possibility and a container for them to see themselves differently. See me. Just see me. Don't judge me. Feel me. Touch me. Don't push me away. Talk is cheap. Oneness, 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 oneness. When rubber meets the road and that person is in your field saying, see me, touch me, feel me, you've got to look beneath the surface of behaviors and go, what collective energy wants to be healed here? What emotion is driving the boat that needs to be looked at with depth? Aristotle said this, a second quote from Aristotle. Let's go ahead and put that one up there. You got it, Wes? There it is. Let's read it together. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. You want to change the effect, change the cause, and you are always the cause. Breathe that in. Some of you are really uncomfortable with that. I've been victimized. No, you haven't. You were, but you're no longer victimized because I see you as a greater being than that. I see you as more powerful than that. Whatever happened to you does not and will not define you in this community. Let's have our moment of earthly experience, and then let's rise the energy up to see the true you, the Christ of you, to touch you. Jesus the man said every single time, it's your faith that made you whole. I had nothing to do with it. The Father within me, the deep center within me is what did this work. It wasn't me, the person. And he didn't judge you. Where are those stones? There were some stones here. I'm going to go ahead and grab one right now. Is there over here? Yep. One of my favorite stories. Excuse me for a second. Pay no attention to the man behind the plant. Feed me, Seymour. One of my favorite stories is when that master teacher, who I want to follow his example, said, he who is without sin cast the first stone. I remember the first time that was integrated into my system in such a real way that the sound, the incredible sound of people saying, I release my judgment of you, that I need to go do my own work. I release my ostracization of you, my pushing you away, my labels about you, so that I can go do the inner work. And there's nothing easy about it. This is what it sounds like. Scary, isn't it? We are called to have an inner thud like that. An inner movement that is so profound, and most of us, we're thinking that the spiritual work should be simple and easy. It's all rainbows and puppy dogs, and the thump sounds like this. I'm saying with the whole heart of your being, the whole divine essence of who you are. Harley, don't be scared. Let it go. Feel it. Go ahead and feel that stone, and then feel how good it feels to let it go. Each of us in our humanity has an EQ, not an IQ. This world is all about measuring IQ and your values because you're so smart. You know so much. You're so learned, and that's good. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks when we talk about the logos. Today we're talking about pathos. Some of the most intelligent people, and I know, are stunted emotionally. And they're doing more damage because they have so much knowledge, and they've contextualized by what they have and what workshop they've taken and what book they have read and what class and who they studied with, that they haven't taken the time to do the inner work. Letting go of the stone is inner emotional work. I'm asking us as a congregation in this collective consciousness series to raise your EQ. Here is what contextualizes raising an EQ. Here's the homework I'm asking each of you to do. slide, please. I'm asking you to be a conduit for change, to channel the inner Christ of your being, the inner Buddha of your being, the inner power of your being, at such that now the world will be transformed at the circle of you, at the circle of your family, at the circle of your community, at the circle of your ethnic origins, at the circle of Cobb County, at the circle of the state of Georgia, at the circle of the United States, at the circle of the government, at the circle of the past, the present, and the future, to know that you are intrinsically linked to those circles at a national and international level, and that means a relationship with the bugs. I want it to be so profound a movement that your emotional vibration is going to the higher place because you're healing what you need to heal because you're looking at what you need to look at. Here's how you do it. First of all, awareness. You can't heal what you don't look at. You can't heal what you don't see. That means being vulnerable. It's easy to say you're perfect, you're whole and complete, and spiritually you are. You are the Christ, perfect, whole and complete just the way you were born. But there's a lot of earthly stuff on top of that beauty that needs to be removed. We need to get real with ourselves, authentic with ourselves, vulnerable with ourselves. What is the dominant energy? What is the go-to response? You are really quick to say, this is the dominant energy of the world, big circle. You were really quick to say, this is the dominant emotion of my family. What is your go-to response when life gets stressful? Where do you immediately go when there's somebody in your face and you feel like you're being attacked? What is the dominant energy that comes out of your mouth? What is the dominant response? Anybody? Call it out. Harley. Harley is your dominant response? Okay, I trust Harley with my life, but I'm not going to get too close with that then. What is the dominant response that comes from you when you're under stress? Call it out. Hate, anger, frustration, defensiveness, that's mine. You want to know that I'm, for a moment when unconscious, you're going to see me get very defensive about what you're saying. What else? What's, sting like a butterfly, fly like a bee, the great smell of brute, and the punch of Ali. The reality is, that means that there's something within me that needs to be healed. Before I even address the national, I've got to stay at the center and let the waves, like ripples upon the pond, go to the national dialogue, go to the human dialogue, go to the macrocosm. So we noticed that. I've got to be aware. My friend Ken Swinford, I had a friend, he was one of my dearest, best friends on the whole planet, the kindest, most gentle, good, beautiful, wonderful person on the planet you could ever meet. And he was an angry man. And we were in a men's group together, and I would tell, the group would say, Ken, you got to process your anger. He never could see it. There was a wall. He wouldn't see it. He couldn't get vulnerable. You got to deal with your anger because you're a good guy, but boy, you can be grumpy. One day, Ken walked into our men's group, and he had a smile from ear to ear because he decided this was the week he was going to see it, he was going to feel it, he was going to touch it, and he was going to heal it. And he walked in, and he says, I get it. I get it. I'm angry because it's the emotion I'm most comfortable with. I have a long-standing relationship with my anger, so it's my go-to response. And he says, you know why I have that? I got that because my father was really comfortable with anger. He never said it, they never talked about it because it was not an environment they could talk about those emotions. He saw it in form, and it seeped in through the bottom of the ocean of consciousness. This is the way a man survives. So you just get angry, and everybody runs away, and you've got it handled. It works sometimes temporarily. In the long run, it is a toxic system that's killing not only your own life, it's killing the whole. And he says, guess what? And he found a place of compassion for his father. And he said, I noticed that my grandfather was the same person that I am today. The moment of healing began for my friend Ken. He became way more pleasant. He was still a good, wonderful, nice man. But I watched him manage, through awareness only, his knee-jerk responses. So it was no longer the punch of Ali. It was fly like a butterfly. So it's one thing to have the awareness. You got to do something different. Fifth unity principle is the truth you know is the truth that you live. There's a lot of people walking around the planet saying, yeah, I've got problems. And then they just keep perpetuating the same problem. They don't make a different choice. The grace of God is your ability to make a different choice, to interrupt the pattern and to do something different. Talk is absolutely cheap. So the second thing is individual and collective regulation. That means being willing to speak up within the environment. I'm making a change. This environment needs to change too, and be willing to say it at the risk of somebody coming at you. This family environment doesn't work for me anymore. We need to shift it because there's something greater that wants to happen. This cultural environment isn't working. What can I do to make it a more loving atmosphere, a more loving place? Make a different choice. Regulation means simply shifting, modulating, moving, and choosing a different direction. Turn the other cheek, the master teacher said. It's not about letting somebody hit you on the other side. It's about let me look a different way. Let me act differently. Let me behave differently. And let me take a breath and speak a little bit differently. That means shaking up the system. I was in the Landmark Forum. Anybody ever take the Landmark Forum? That's where I was last week. Yeah, do I look beat up? And you can clap. We'll talk about my reaction to the Landmark Forum. I didn't put any money down for the next 8 courses. Oh, Freudian slip. But the reality is I was in an experience, a very intense experience. And I found myself going to my go-to. We were sitting from 8:30 in the morning till 10:30 at night. I don't sit. Those of you who know me, I'm a little bit of a hyperactive child. I don't sit that long. I was uncomfortable. But I had a realization as I was in judgment about the presenter. As I was in judgment about when the breaks were supposed to happen, as I was in judgment about everything, I went to my go-to, which was complaint. Inner complaint. This is not where I want to be. I'd much rather be hanging out with David Alt and Charles Holt. Not where I want to be. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And I got a face-to-face look, which is what the Landmark Forum is all about. Coming face-to-face with the culture of my family that has made an art form of complaint. It's disguised as humor. Oh, it's so funny. But you peel it down, you peel that onion back, it is complaint. And you know what I found out? That my complaining was making it was more uncomfortable in my body than the sitting was. My complaint about the sitting was more painful than the sitting itself. I want you to hear that. And I said, this is ridiculous. And when the Landmark Forum is in your face and says, make a different choice, have a different story. Your story sucks. Get over it. And I said, you know what? I'm here. This is where I'm at. I'm going to have an experience, and I'm going to choose compassion. I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose understanding. It's amazing that I was able to sit for 8 hours, and I had no aches and pains in my body as a result. I suddenly began to get very invested in other people's healings. I didn't need to get up and share. I've done a lot of work, but there were people in that room that needed me to be a witness, that needed me to see them, that needed me to feel them, to touch them, to hold them, to love them. And healings were magnificent. Was there a healing for me? Maybe not as profound as some of the things that I witnessed. But boy, if I can get a hold of, like my friend Ken, that my complaining is not serving anything at any layer of our reality. That collective pathos is being destroyed by my attitude. I want to be a contributor to compassion and love and something that is feeding the whole, changing the environment of the national scene, the international scene, and not adding more crap to the crap that I'm witnessing. I want you to hear that. That's unity in a nutshell. That's how powerful you are. Your individual thoughts are changing and transforming the planet, one direction or the other, heaven or hell. Which one do you choose? All right, what happens? When you make a different choice, something opens up in you. So we've got awareness, we've made a different decision, and we've regulated our actions. We get to a place of the motivation. And what happens is there's an open in your own heart where you get to remember your why for being. Unity North and this culture has been talking about our why for a really long time now. And we're getting closer and closer and closer to why we are on the planet at this time in this community, in this church. You cannot get there through complaint and through anger, through duality and frustration. It's just by being vulnerable and open enough to open up the field of your being and go, this is why I was born. I wasn't born to sit and complain for 3 days straight. I was born to be the living expression of light. Call it the Christ, call it the Buddha, I don't care what you call it, be it. And when you come from that place of understanding your why, your reason for being on the planet, by seeing it, feeling it, and touching it, you take all the power back from any kind of energy that's operating at the whole. You bring it back to a place of center, to be the cause of a new reality and not just an effect of society's unconsciousness. I want you to hear that. You take the power back to be the cause. You see, God is a circle whose center is everywhere, so God is right here, and not just an effect of everybody else's unconsciousness. To do so, I have to be able to touch the Christ of my being. I have to understand that I am the face of God, that you are the face of God. That presenter was the face of God. That person you have judged for the last 20 years is also the face of God. Be the change, be the shift you want to see. And what happens is the pathos begins to shift here and here. Pathos has a root that is very similar to the word pathology. What is pathology? It is the study of the cause of disease. The study of the cause of disease. When we return to the place of our organic being, the way we were created as the Christ itself, we become a great pathologist with the pathos that is driving the human race. And so I leave the place of judgment and combativeness and fight and anger about what I see. And I begin to see the dis-ease that is underneath it all. Underneath the behavior, underneath the actions, underneath the words, underneath the tension is something that is calling, see me, feel me. And it may look really ugly on the surface, but I guarantee you that if you can see somebody, feel them, love them, touch them at depth, something else will emerge. And it may happen between two people in this moment. But let me tell you, those circles are linked. Nobody has the right to be hopeless about the state of our human condition. None of us here today has the right to just say, oh yeah, anger is the dominant energy. Fear is the dominant energy. It's to see differently, feel differently, and then begin to have a degree of empathy. And that means if I notice anger and fear, whatever it is, I handle the anger and the fear in me first. I stop the pattern here. I interrupt the response that is adding fuel to the fire of the collective I want to change. I want to give you one more story before we go into meditation. I was involved in a group called the Noah Project in Sacramento, and I was deeply touched. It was a group of men, big, strong, tough men. And once a month, we would read what was going on for the month in the newspaper. What happened in Sacramento? Where was there a travesty? Where was there a pain? Where was there a difficulty? And sometimes it was as profound as a bombing at a synagogue. Sometimes as dark as a rape that had happened or a murder that had happened in Sacramento. And these men made a sacred vow to be the conduit for change, to be the portal for change. We would collect those news reports and say, let's meet there. Sometimes 50 guys would show up and they'd bring their poems. They'd bring their songs. They'd bring their prayers. We brought a lot of silence. We even had a guy that got us dancing. You want to freak people out driving down the street, get 50 big guys dancing, universal dances of peace in the park? What the heck are they doing? As a conduit for change, there will be people that will say, what the heck are you doing? You should be angry. You should be this way. That's the collective rearing its head saying, you should, you should. The collective doesn't define you. And we would get together and we would sing songs, hold hands in circle and dance and get into the silence. And let me tell you, I can't scientifically prove it, but I know that the energy in those spots, and some people let us into their home where a rape had happened and there was nothing but anger and hatred and victimhood, something shifted. Where there was a murder or a bombing, the collective came together and said, let's change the energy here. Because we're all energy. We all know that, right? It's all energy. And you're either contributing to a downward energy or an upward energy. Why not get together in a collective and hold sacred space that the collective pathos will not control us, but that we, as the veritable center of God, can control where the emotions go. Let them go for good. Let them go for peace. Let them go for harmony. Here's a quote that you saw on the marquee. It's going to be up there for the whole series. I want you to read this together with a deep vow and pledge that you are going to participate in this collective consciousness, this collective digging and getting to the roots. Let's say it together. There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. I've spoken a lot of words here today, and I've seen heads moving. I've seen eyes closed. I've seen breath. You care about something. This is the work that we do. And this collective consciousness series that we're going to do is going to absolutely take us to the place of seeing what is vitally important. Not just talking about it, seeing it, feeling it, touching that which needs to be released that is not in congruity with the love and the compassion and the oneness and the peace that we desire. We're going to take stock. Some of you may never come back. That's what they said at the Landmark Forum. And there was 30 people that left the room on the first night. That's your choice. You can leave the room if you want, or you can invite somebody next week to be part of this journey of cleaning house. And to know that you're not only cleaning house here in this environment, you're cleaning it at a much bigger level.